We're sisters, best friends, and authors on a mission to help you stoke your creative fire and live the life of your dreams. We believe that purpose fuels passion and that creativity is your secret weapon for mass construction. There's never been a better time to bless the world with your dream realized. You're listening to The Kate and Abby Show.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Kate and Abby Show. We're so stoked to have you here with us today. We are unboxing, unpacking a topic that we've never touched on before, but yet we've both respectively been asked about this so many times that when we were talking about what we wanted to do for upcoming episodes, it was like, oh my goodness, we should do an episode about this because we've both gotten this question so many times. So let's make an episode about it and really unpack this topic. And that is the topic of morning routines. What we do first thing in the morning to create a healthy, creative, inspiring day. So I think that the way you start your morning can really affect your entire day. Me and Abby talk about this all the time, and we both do have very specific things that we do first thing in the morning to set ourselves up for success, so to speak, to set ourselves up for creativity, for light, wellness, inspiration. So we're going to dive into all of that today and more, but first, we have to thank our sponsors, who are you guys. You're the ones who support this show and keep it going, and we so appreciate your help. So if you get value out of this podcast, go to patreon.com/The Kate and Abby Show and help us keep this podcast alive and free of interruptions. So morning routines. You do some pretty specific things in the morning. So what would you say are like the first few things that you do every morning that are part of your morning routine that are the same, that help you stay inspired?
Well, the funny thing is I have tried to stick to more elaborate morning routines in the past and spent a lot of time sitting down and thinking about what would be the best way to create a good, creative, inspired mental headspace to go into my day, and all the go-to healthy habits. How can I fill my morning with all of those things? And all the times that I've tried to do that, it just does not end up working long term, because what I find, just me personally, I do not like spending a lot of time on a routine in the morning. I like keeping it pretty minimal because I like to get my day started like very quickly. Basically the moment I wake up, I am like ready to go.
Yeah.
But I need a little bit of time to like wake up completely, but it doesn't take long for me to feel energized, ready to tackle my to-do list or whatever projects are on my plate for that day. So I don't like to spend a lot of time on the morning routine. So what I've kind of found is the best way, at least in my own experience, to discover what you really need is to follow your heart, follow your gut impulses on a lot of these things. Don't just adopt what somebody else does because it seems like a good thing to do in the morning. It might not necessarily be the best thing for you and your lifestyle. So anyway, long story short, to answer the question, the few things that I do in the morning that are must-haves for my morning routine are quiet time and having tea and communicating with my family. So like just a small block of time, like an hour or less even, but usually it's like an hour of just spending time with my family, drinking my first cup of tea, and kind of awakening to the new day in a very relaxed way, not any super motivational, like,
right,
waking up, just kind of hanging out, relaxing, allowing myself to naturally awaken to the new day, and having that moment of like stillness before going into the more energized part of my day, I find is very helpful for grounding and remembering that you're not a human doing, you're a human being, and remembering that you're not a machine, which is very important, I find, for myself anyway, because I tend to be, at least I used to be, more of a workaholic personality. And I have had to implement physical things in my routines to pull back from that and to remind myself that it's not just all about work and getting things done and productivity. It's okay to take time to relax, but also to respect that, you know, you're energized, you want to get your day started.
Right. That's the thing, is it doesn't have to be an elaborate routine.
Yeah.
It can be a minimal morning routine. And I'm so supportive of that idea, because I think there's a lot out there on YouTube and on the internet about like millionaire morning routines and sort of this idea that if you follow someone else's morning routine who is quote unquote successful based on someone else's standard of success, then you too can be successful on someone else's term of success. You don't have to. And even if you follow some person who has a lot of money or resources, their routine, it doesn't mean that you're going to have their copy and pasted life. That's kind of a silly way to look at it. But yet that message is there on a low grade level. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, oh, if you follow Elon Musk's morning routine, you'll come up with a company like Tesla. Well, no, because that's that person. Right. You're not that person. You don't need to, like, whacking you here. We're like, we are unique beings. Right. No one is like someone else. So you're not going to have the same life as someone else does.
Yeah.
And nor should you aspire to that. You should aspire to be the healthiest, wellest, happiest version of yourself.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean?
And if you try other people's morning routines, you should check in with yourself constantly and ask yourself, does this feel right to me?
Right.
For me.
And if part of it does, cool, keep that part.
Yeah.
But if some of it's like, I'm making myself do this so that I can one day be a successful, quote unquote, successful human being, well, that's not going to happen if you're going against your own self, your own true desires, to try to match someone else's standard of what you should be doing.
Right. Because really what a lot of morning routines, successful morning routines, are doing is they're trying to prime you, your body, your brain, your soul for a day that will be productive and help you to move towards your idea of success, whatever that means to you. So for a lot of people, that includes healthy habits, drinking water, exercising, but it might not necessarily be for you as far as the morning, okay? The morning might not be the best thing for you. Like, I know you and I are both the same in this way, and I feel like there's also a lot of other people out there who are like this, who don't even want to say that they're like this because they feel somewhat lazy for saying this, but hopefully this will help to free you from
liberate you to realize this is okay.
I cannot work out in the morning.
Me neither. I hate working out in the morning.
I feel like garbage the whole day if I work out in the morning. Mm-hmm. I don't have any energy. I don't have any creativity. And so that like does the opposite effect of what it does for, a lot of people. A lot of people, it helps them to feel energized and creative. I don't know how, yeah, but I'm glad for them. Yeah. But it works in the opposite effect for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's similar for you as well.
Yeah, I have tried it. There was a period of time that I went through. It was probably 3 years ago. It was before we even started this podcast, where I had just finished reading a book by a Navy SEAL. And I'm like, I'm going to try this, getting up at 4:30 every morning. That seems like a good idea. I can see where it's good to get up early in the morning. You're up before everyone else. You have this beautiful time, this sacred time to yourself. That made a lot of sense to me. So I started getting up every day at 4:30 in the morning and working out. And it was probably one of the worst weeks of my life. And I just couldn't get used to it. I'm like, yeah. I don't understand. And I remember actually feeling a little disappointed in myself. Like, oh man, why can't I adjust to this? This is something that look at Navy SEALs do this, yogis do this, spiritual people, and, all these very interesting people that I like listening to. And why doesn't it work for me? What's wrong with me that I can't get this to work? And what I realize is it's nothing wrong with me. It's just everybody's different. And for me, working out first thing in the morning is something that I do not like doing. My body is just not ready to work out. I like to work out in the usually late afternoon, sometimes early afternoon, but it's always sometime in the afternoon. And that's when my body feels naturally awake and alert enough. I've moved around, had natural movement, which has helped my body to become ready to do a more intense workout. Otherwise, I feel like I'm almost more prone to injury or overstretching and things first thing in the morning. So I realized I don't need to copy and paste someone else's morning routine. If that works for a yogi somewhere or a Navy SEAL somewhere or some very successful quote unquote person somewhere, then great. I'm happy for them. But it doesn't need to be that way for me. It doesn't need to be that way for everyone. So for me, and Abby is, as you've heard her talk about her morning routine, we both start our mornings quite slow in a more slow living ritual of I have coffee. Usually me and Abby hang out in the morning. I'm one of the family members that she communicates with while she's having her tea.
I realized how clinical that sounded.
Family members.
I have dialogue with my family.
She has dialogue with family members. I'm one. I am one of the family members.
Yes,
and
you
so
are.
Except I have coffee, so I have my morning cup of coffee.
Live Kate and Abby show every morning that nobody gets to experience but us.
Yeah. Yeah, first thing in the morning too. We're both
epic.
Barely awake, half awake. Kate and Abby yammering on about books and story.
Yep.
It makes sense probably only to us.
Yeah, probably. And that's something you were talking about in one of your recent videos about hustle culture.
Yes.
And I feel like this get up super early and start, grinding, whether it's working or working out.
Yeah.
Is it does work for some people. So I don't want to say that it doesn't work because it does work for some people.
It's not a one size fits all at all. It's not like that.
It doesn't feel as kind and intuitive to yourself, When you first wake up, most people don't have the inclination to throw themselves into something really hard and arduous right away. And that inclination is not always laziness. Okay, so don't be down on yourself if you're like, I don't want to work out as soon as I roll out of bed, or I don't want to get right into work right away, because that more often than not is your intuition speaking to you, that you need something else. You need something to nurture you and sustain you throughout your day. And that might not be it, but sometimes it is. Sometimes I crave movement, exercise, something high energy. It's calling to me.
Right. Yes.
This is going to nurture me. And I
intuitive
feel
living,
it,
I think people are starting more than ever now, I think, with just the way the world is and things that are happening in the world. I think people are looking more for something deeper other than just following someone else's rules, for intuitive living, you see slow living has become really popular, minimalistic living. And what is that? Why is it so many people have become curious about that? I personally believe it's because we've been told so many times to follow other people's rules or just to follow some 10-step guide that we've lost connection with our own intuition. What do we crave? What do our bodies and minds and spirits actually need?
Yes. What will make you feel your best?
Exactly.
I think that's the thing, because that's the huge difference between listening to your intuition and being lazy.
Yeah.
Because the inclination of, I don't want to do that, could be born out of laziness, but oftentimes it's the thing that will actually make you feel your best. Right. And you're just like, I don't want to do that, because maybe the process of it is hard or difficult or requires you to sweat.
Right.
Okay. But you will never feel intuitively, what would make me feel my best? To wake up in the morning and lie on the couch and eat chips and watch Netflix. That's not going to make you feel your best. It won't. So you don't intuitively crave that. That's more of a lazy pull. That would be I want to procrastinate.
But then
afterwards,
you don't feel good.
Right. It doesn't nurture you. It doesn't inspire you.
Yes. Like you might feel like, oh, I want to eat some sort of fried food or a takeout food. Right. A takeout food. But can you tell me we're health food nerds?
A takeout food.
A takeout food.
I heard someone once use the phrase recently of food that you cook at home. And I was like, what other kind of food is there?
I know. Grocery store. But you don't necessarily, let's say you wanted to have a fast food and you have a bunch of fast food and then afterwards you feel like, oh, I shouldn't eat that. I don't really feel good. I don't feel energized. I feel like food coma. You know what I mean? So even though it felt like a satisfying impulse in the moment, it doesn't actually bring you happiness and fulfillment and health at the end of it. So I think when you're tapping into your intuition isn't going to tell you to get takeout food. Your intuition is going to guide you towards things that are healthy for you, but they might not necessarily align with someone else's particular routine. So like for Abby and I, we are more into a slow living approach to morning routines. For me personally, I make myself a cup of coffee first thing in the morning, and typically something I do while my coffee is brewing is meditate. I usually light a couple candles, I light some incense, and I meditate from anywhere from 10 minutes to 45 minutes. And it used to seem to me like, wow, that's a long time to take first thing in the morning. But as I started doing it more and more, it set me up so well to feel filled with peace and grounded that it made everything else in my day flow so much better. So when you're taking time for yourself first thing in the morning, sometimes it can seem like, oh, I don't want to waste this much time. But it's not wasted time, because if it helps you to feel rejuvenated and refreshed and it helps everything else in your day flow better, well, you would have probably had times in your day when you were getting distracted because you weren't feeling in flow, and all that time would have equated to the same amount of time that you could have taken for yourself first thing in the morning. So even if you want to do something that feels a little indulgent, like meditating for a half an hour, or maybe it's doing a gentle yoga routine, or just having a cup of tea and reading, take that time for yourself, because it will actually help you to save time as your day goes on. Because if you start working right away and you don't take any time to nourish yourself first thing in the morning, as your day goes on, you'll probably start like dragging around the afternoon. You'll need to take a break, or you'll get distracted looking at something online, or go get a cup of coffee or something. Well, there's your time that you could have taken for yourself first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's really not a waste of time. It's reallocating time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've definitely experienced that as well. When I tend to get more distracted throughout my day, usually there is a trigger, a reason why I did not, something that I could have done earlier to prepare myself mentally for more clarity, more focus, and self-checking and observing your day, observing what you do is a great way to find that, to pinpoint what is it that gets me focused and makes me want to create. What is it that I did right on this day when I was really focused that I didn't do on this other day when I wasn't focused? And some things are outward conflicts that we encounter throughout our day that we can't control, but a lot of it we can control.
A lot of it's internal conflict.
Yes, internal conflict. You know how I feel about that. But another thing that I want to say about morning routines that I've found very helpful, that I don't really hear many people say, is that they don't always have to be the same every day.
Yeah.
And I know the word routine, that sort of comes with the word routine, is that it's the same every single day. But there are certain things that I do on different days in the morning that incorporate themselves into my routine that I don't need every day. Like journaling is one of those things. There was a time, several different occasions, that I was trying really hard to journal every single day, because successful people journal every morning, right? Like that's just part of if you want to be a millionaire, you have to journal every morning. But you don't. And what I was finding with my journaling practice was that I got the most out of journaling, and the most insight, the most inspiration, the most clarity from journaling only when I intuitively felt like I needed to, almost as a form of self-therapy, which I've talked about before on this podcast, in that it's a great way to empty your brain, so to speak, and look at what is going on and what do I need to assess, what do I need to maybe pull back from, take a break from, what do I need to explore more, what are my needs. That's something that I think a lot of us have trouble discerning, and journaling can help to bring those things to light. But I find that I don't need that every day. I need it when I feel stuck or when I feel mentally cluttered and I don't really know, I can't really pinpoint what is going on, what do I need, what will nourish me. And that's when I journal, and it gives me more clarity. But if I did that every day, it just doesn't serve me personally. Right. Now it does for some people, but for me personally, I've found that journaling every day just feels like a chore I have to keep up with.
Right.
And I think it's a non-intuitive way to live, because it's more like living like a machine. I think having a morning routine that's the same thing every single day puts you into this machine-like mindset of, I do the same thing every day.
Right.
It makes me think of a machine that you turn on and it warms up the same way. It goes through the same little sequence of movements every single time. But we're creative, spiritual beings, and we don't operate like machines mentally or creatively. So I think to nurture that creative playfulness that brings about new ideas and exciting innovations, in order to nurture that, you have to give yourself the freedom to explore new things, and don't be the same every day. Don't put yourself in a box,
right?
That's
why I love the word ritual better than routine, because a ritual implies sacred time. And that's really what you're doing, is you're saying, this is a sacred time that I'm taking to take care of myself, whether it's mind, body, or spirit, or all the above. And it can be different every time, as long as it's something that falls into something that will nourish you. So like you were just saying, it doesn't have to be the same exact things that you're doing each time. It could be the ritual is taking that time period, whether it's reading or having a cup of tea or doing something with someone you love, taking time to write, if that's something you want to do, if you're a writer. And that could be part of your routine, to really tap into your intuition and figure out, what is it that I really need? What is it that serves me individually the best? And don't fall into the trap that I fell into years ago, which is, I admire XYZ person or people and they do this, so I should try to emulate that same thing. That's not going to make you have those same values as that person. Because every single person has different needs. Like what I found out about waking up at 4:30 in the morning is that I, as an individual, need a certain amount of sleep. And I know what hours my body naturally wants to sleep. So to force myself to get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, it goes against what my body is telling me. I need this. You know what I mean? So it's important to listen to those things for your health, for your spirit. And I'm certainly not advocating for like just sleeping in all day or anything like that, but figuring out, what does my body need with sleep, with nutrition, with nourishment, with exercise, and when do I feel like actually doing those things, and not feeling like you need to match someone else's schedule just because they are someone you look up to.
Right. Yeah, you can still admire them, admire what they do, and respect them, but with kind of a critique mindset.
Right.
Admire critically.
Right.
And not, I have to adopt everything they do because I admire them so much and I want to be just like them. Well, even if you adopted everything they did, you wouldn't be just like them because they're their own person, like you're saying. Yeah. And you would end up cheating yourself of those things that help you to be you. So it's really important to listen to your needs on this. I love how we went into a topic of like our morning routines and basically ended with the conclusion that we don't have a morning routine that we stick to every single day, and neither should you.
Yep, exactly. Morning ritual. Figure out what intuitively works for you. Yeah. Don't feel the need to follow someone else. A routine doesn't have to be a machine-like repetition. It can be something that changes over time. It can be something that changes with location. It can be something that changes as you change.
Yes. And ultimately, it should make you feel your best. So whatever those things are, to set you up for success, you want to set yourself up for feeling your best is really the goal, both physically, creatively, mentally, all of those things. So take that into account. Hopefully that will give you some inspiration when developing your own morning routine. Definitely comment below if you're on YouTube and tell us what you thought of this episode. Do you have a morning routine? And if so, what does it look like? Is it the same every day, or do you change it up sometimes? We'd love to hear all about that. If you are on YouTube, or if you're not, you can find the video version on Kate's YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/KAMNs. Definitely check that out. All of our podcast episodes go up there as YouTube versions if you are listening on other podcast platforms. And be sure to give us a good rating on those other platforms if you do listen to the audio version of this podcast. We really appreciate all of the ratings you guys give us. It means a lot. And all of your comments. So thank you so much. And thank you again to our amazing sponsors, our patrons. We love you guys, and we so appreciate your support. If you get value out of this podcast, go to patreon.com/The Kate and Abby Show and help us keep this show alive and free of interruptions. Until next week,
stay stoked
and rock on.